You know that feeling? You fire off an email to customer support, asking some question, and then just a few minutes later, bam, a perfect, accurate answer lands in your inbox. But what if that response wasn't actually written by a person at all? What if it was put together by a really smart AI? Well, today, we're going to go under the hood and see exactly how that magic happens. Okay, so let's dive right in. The promise here is, well, it's huge. We're not just talking about some simple auto reply that says, "We got your email." No, the real goal here is to create a complete AI workbench that can manage the entire conversation, from the very first hello all the way to the final solution. So yeah, that's the high-level pitch. It sounds great on a slide, but we're here to figure out how the machine actually works, right? What really happens in the code from the second your email hits their server? Let's follow that digital journey step by step. And our journey starts, as you'd expect, right at the front door. This is all about how the system first gets its hands on your email. This is message ingestion. You know, what's really interesting here is that the entry point isn't some super exotic piece of tech. The system is basically just watching a shared mailbox, like support@company.com, using the standard tools for Outlook or Gmail. In the code, this is handled by something called an Azure App Registration, which has a name like Func Outlook Mail Watcher. Just think of that as a secure digital keycard that gives the application very specific permissions to read and process the mail. It's really just the digital version of giving a new mailroom clerk a key. All right, so the email is officially in the building. Now it's time for triage. The system has to figure out, what is this person actually asking? So from a business point of view, the process looks really neat and logical, right? You lay it out in this nice workflow, you process the input, analyze the context, apply some rules, and so on. This is kind of the high-level map of what the business wants to happen. But for a developer, that neat little workflow isn't a checklist. It's a pipeline. It's a whole series of small, specialized programs we call microservices. You can think of them like a team of specialists on an assembly line. Each one has one very, very specific job to do. So let's meet the key players on this assembly line. First up, a function called Func Message Processor gets the email and does the first pass of AI analysis. Once it's done, it drops the message into what's basically a digital folder. From there, another function, Func Message Manager, picks it up and applies all the specific business rules. And finally, that fully processed message lands in a really powerful, flexible database called Cosmos DB, all ready for the next stage. So after this whole stage, we don't just have an email anymore. We have what the system calls an enriched message. And this, right here, is where you see the value. It's the original email, sure, but now it's got this new layer of AI intelligence baked in. What topics were mentioned, who are the key people or products, what's the customer's mood, even a quick summary. It's basically an email with superpowers. Okay, so now the system understands the question, but where on earth does it find the answer? Well, let's head over to the library, or as the developers like to call it, the knowledge brain. Now, to find answers, the system uses this incredibly powerful technique called vector search. And you've got to forget about old school keyword searching. This is all about understanding the meaning. So if you search for car issues, a keyword search is only going to find car issues. But a vector search, it'll find documents about automobile problems or vehicle trouble because it understands that those concepts are basically the same thing. It's searching for ideas, not just words. And the specific technology that powers this incredible conceptual search is a vector database called Qdrant. This right here is the system's long-term memory. It's the library of everything it knows. Now, you might be thinking that connecting to this powerful AI brain has to be incredibly complicated. But the reality is, well, it's surprisingly elegant. This single line of code right from the project's repository. New Qdrant client. That's the handshake. That's the exact moment the application plugs into its massive memory. That's it. But wait, how does that memory get filled in the first place? Well, there's a dedicated process that's always running in the background. It's an Azure durable function called FuncQA. It just sits there, gobbling up web pages and internal documents, and it uses a super fast AI model from a company called Grok to automatically create question and answer pairs from that content. And then it feeds all those pairs right into the Qdrant database. This is how the system is constantly learning and growing its knowledge. So let's recap. The system understands the question, and it's found some really relevant knowledge from its brain. Now it's time for the final act, putting together a coherent, human-sounding response. Hey, remember those abstract AI agents we saw in that first business document? Well, this is where they actually become real. That analysis agent they talked about, that's really a service called message decomposition service. And the decision agent? Yep, that's the vector search service we were just talking about. This is that aha moment where the business promise meets the technical reality. And here's how these services all work together in a super fast workflow. First, the user's email gets broken down into its core questions. Second, vector search pulls answers from the internal knowledge brain. Third, it does a quick web search for any really new information. Fourth, and this is so important for building trust, it turns all of its findings into structured citations. Fifth, it feeds all of this, the questions, the internal answers, the web results, the citations, to a generative AI model to actually write the final human-like response. And last, it formats everything into a clean, professional email. Phew, okay, we've been deep in the technical weeds. Now let's pull back up to 30,000 feet and see what all this complex machinery actually delivers at the end of the day. Because really, at the end of the day, this entire technical symphony, every single microservice, every function call, every line of code, it's all designed to do one thing: deliver clear, tangible value to the business. And what does that value actually look like? Well, it's an enhanced customer experience with way faster, personalized, 24/7 responses. That's our automated pipeline in action. It's operational efficiency, because your human agents aren't wasting time answering the same basic questions over and over. That's the knowledge brain doing its job. And it's continuous improvement, because as we saw with that Funk QA process, this system is literally built to keep learning. It all connects. So think about it for a second. We have just walked through this incredibly intricate journey of a single email. But this whole architecture, it wasn't built just for email. So the question I want to leave you with is, what does the world look like when this exact same system is scaled up to manage every call, every chat, and every single message a company receives? Now that is when things get truly transformative.